Good morning. Hey, it's Comics with Chris. Good morning. Welcome, welcome. So, yes, uh, what is it? It is Monday, and there's nothing better than getting us start early. Um, I know for myself that if I don't, half a day can slide by, and I get nothing done in the morning, so I figured I'd jump right into it. Um, you know, percentage wise, I probably got about 20 or 30% of today will be actual working on art and my comic and some commission work I got to do. I got a lot of business I got to take care of. And some um, running around a little bit. I got to do some shopping later. So definitely wanted to get into this. So good morning, all. Whether you're here joining me or you're just catching this later. Thank you to my new subscribers. Slowly, we grow towards 1,000. And do I have my little banner thing? Where are ya? Yep, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Trying to get to my goal of 1,000 subscribers. So I could be a full-fledged YouTube channel. And I'm open for commission work. If you want me to pencil and ink a piece. I also do inking commissions. If you're a penciler and you want me to ink something, then by all means. For those that don't know, let me get back to the comments. I was on Comics with Chris the other day. If you go check out his newest episode, you can watch us talk and gab about comics and life and things happening. He'll be on my channel this week, so you can look forward to that. It's always great to hang out with fellow comic creators. I guess I'll start with filling in blacks because that's the easiest. So let's see. What did I want to get into? Yeah, I got a lot to accomplish this week. Being a solo creator, it's easy that things fall behind. One of the things I was doing yesterday was I got a mountain of to-do lists and notes and designs I've been tackling, scanning and going through them as I go, and I definitely accomplished a lot of that yesterday. I spent a good part of yesterday doing that. Um, I still have a lot to go, but I'm probably 2/3 into it, and once I get that stuff fully into my computer, then I can start dispersing it into different folders. What's projects, what's to-do lists, what's other things, commissions, um, notes, what have you. Um, yeah, things can easily get away from you, and I'm making it a mission for myself to better keep on top of all that. Um, and it's I already feel like I'm going forward in a better manner. Um, if all goes well this month, then I'll actually be able to accomplish some good stuff next month. Uh, but if it doesn't, and I slack or I get distracted or off track, then I'll be in the same situation next month. So I definitely don't want to do that, and you know, definitely keep on better handle on the business side of things, and have my studio a lot more organized going forward. Because yeah, I want to. There's not too much time. I mean, it's the 9th, but it's like already into the month, and we got holidays coming up, and while I'm not living near family, I will at least connect with them. Um, but I will be doing some kind of stuff. I just want to relax when Thanksgiving comes around. I usually go over to my friend's place in town, have a big dinner and afternoon of it. Um, Christmas rolls around, usually means a bunch of phone calls to various friends and my family. Um, and then my favorite holiday, it's like I know like Christmas is really big for a lot of friends. Um, Definitely Thanksgiving is family for a lot of people. Uh, Halloween, which just passed, a lot of people dress up and decorate and whatnot. For me, New Year's Eve has always been a special holiday. And, I'm no longer living in New York. I'm out in Kentucky, and um, I don't do much more than watch the ball drop on TV, and watch it happen in New York, and just like flip around channels and see what's happening around the world. But usually get some drinks going, get some food going, get a lot of snacks going. It's just, you know, a really relaxing, fun holiday for me. And I like to have at least accomplished things enough where I can feel free to take the evening off. Because otherwise, I'm thinking of, oh man, I need to do this, I need to do that, and. So I'm already planning ahead of the game, so I don't have too much in my queue. Now, whether that means I actually finish this issue of Retro, we shall see. I want to, but I got paying commitments, so um, and I know by the end of this month I'll have a really good idea of where I stand. You know, inking is just part of it. Once that's done, then it's the production, and I'm not going to race through that part of it, even though I will have help. Uh, I will initially be designing everything, because it's not just, it won't be for just this book, it will be for all my other character first issues. Retro is the first, but there'll be 6 other characters, 7 in all. And then there'll be a team book, and the first issues will all have a similar feel in what I want to, put in the back. All the extras, they'll all be 28 pages of story, and then 40 pages total, so it'll be a lot of back content. And I do want to, once I get it fully done, get a PDF off to a bunch of friends and colleagues, and see if I can mock up a little letters page of sorts, even if it's just 2 or 3. Like, get my friends to read it, and then have them write a letter for the letters page. I'm a big fan of comics back in the day. Well, they had a letters page where, I read mostly Marvel, read a lot of independents as well. Marvel had the Marvel bullpen page, which was not only Stanley's soapbox, which, I'll kind of sort of do something like that myself, but it also had, exciting things happening in Marvel. So there'll be exciting things happening in what is it? It's Has Comics Dude. It'll be my publishing name, and there it is on the screen. But right now, we're working in the studio. So yeah, I'm excited to start pulling all that stuff together. I'll mention, if you didn't know, that there's, many links. If you're a comic creator and you didn't know, I have a comic book creator Facebook group called Creator Own, and you can go join that and post your progress on your comic. And it's a fun growing group. And I haven't had too much time lately to really do anything special there, but I will. I will. It's me, and I have a number of moderators there. Try to keep control of the group so it's not just people spamming. I try to keep it limited to one post a day, and various rules which you can read at the top. So there's no, sort of pornography or violence or posts with mainstream characters. It is creator owned afterwards. After all, so it's important that we have a voice as creators. Boom, 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 boom. Let's see. So the actual cover of yeah, here we go. Good to see you working today. Thanks, my friend. It's always good to be working. No, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh well, happens. Yeah, I'm sort of it's Monday, and I want to get a jump on not only my day but my week. Get things rocking. Lots to do. I have things to set up for other people. I got a number of people interested in buying some comic page art. Possibly, you never know until you know. And that means I gotta make sure everything I have is scanned, and then I'll make folders and show them what I have. It's like everybody still comes at me with, do you have any Aquaman pages? Do you have anything from Marvel? It's like all that stuff is long gone. It's like, what are you, crazy? That was, all that. I worked for Marvel and DC back in the 90s. I definitely don't have any of that stuff left. For a minute, I wanted to hold on to like some of the better pages, but the offers were too good to pass up. I'm not so much a art collector. I've moved one too many times, especially like when I was in New York. I had too many apartments. I'm originally from Brooklyn, but I lived in Brooklyn. I lived in Queens. I lived in the Bronx briefly, Manhattan briefly. I lived in Staten Island for a couple of years. So just, moving is always a hassle. And every time I moved, I got rid of stuff, more and more stuff. And lately, it's like I've been in Kentucky mostly since 2006, and while when I moved from New York to Kentucky, I got rid of almost everything. I got on the bus with one suitcase full of clothes and two portfolios packed to the brim, um, mostly with artwork and all my supplies I can carry. But I got rid of 99% of my collection of comics and books. I had, tons of art books, and I got rid of the whole collection of comics that I worked on. So as I worked on a book back then, I would keep a copy of it or make sure I got a copy of it to keep. And that was sort of my living bio of work I accomplished. But when I moved from New York, which is, let's see, well, I did have a laptop. Like my last couple of years was in Staten Island, and I did have a laptop at the time, and I guess I did bring the laptop with me. It would have, well, did I have? I'm trying to remember if I had a scanner back then, because it would have been smart of me to actually at least scan the covers of the books I worked on. But I'm pretty sure I didn't do that. So I don't have a good biography of all the books I've worked on. And at various points, people ask me, what would you work on? And it's like, well, I have a vague memory of this and that and the other thing, but a whole catalog of my history I do not have. And you can go online and sort of search out my name and look at, you know, it. Some sites are accurate, some are not. It's like comic book database, and I would look through it myself to give other people links and stuff. But it would be like 80% accurate. There'd be a lot of stuff that is under my brother's name and all that. Stinch, salutations, welcome, welcome. What are you up to this fine morning? So yeah, as far as an accurate history of everything, there is none. That's okay. I'm most known for my Aquaman work, which definitely is like really the thing I'm most proud of. It was the most consistent book I worked on, even though it wasn't like these 24 issues in a row. It was like these 24 books I worked on scattered. Like I worked on issue 10, then it was issue 15, then it was, I don't know, whatever it was, 21. Me and Cal Fury was sort of the fill-in team from the other art team initially. And it wasn't until they decided, okay, the other team is not keeping up with the schedule, and made Cal Fury the regular penciler, that we were doing issue by issue. But it was really like the only book I've ever worked on that was that consistent. It's like I've done so many random books in my career. It's ridiculous. Um, at the end of the day, uh, I've always just been happy enough to keep busy and work and work on different artists, work on different books. And it's always fun. Um, but I do want to you know have an opportunity in my career to truly leave a legacy. And I figured out years ago the only way for me to accomplish that is to work on my own books, and that is what Has Comics is going to be about. And it's going to take me a while to really deep dive into it all, but it will definitely truly be my legacy. Rubbing up for another mental toll, wanting to work and wanting to laze around. Yeah, like it's really easy. Like if you start thinking, that's people's problems, and that's it's definitely my problem. It's like if I start thinking about what to do, then I'm already in trouble. That's why it's good to build up automatic results, like that you got. You make your simple, straightforward to-do list sort of the night before, and just jump right into it the very next day. I know it's literally impossible for me to get up in the morning, make coffee, have breakfast, and not jump on the internet to, you know, answer messages and look at least, a couple of things of what other people were up to, as well as just post an initial post on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Um, and it's easily an hour or two can fly by, and that's really not accomplishing anything. um, which is why I wanted to stream yesterday. I just didn't get that, didn't really push myself into it. And you just got to push yourself into it. If you want to accomplish something in the long run. It's like I have nothing but long-term goals, and there's no immediate accomplishment to anything by doing little bits of things. But like at the end of the day that you feel accomplished. I love that feeling because I hate the opposite feeling. I hate getting to the end of the day and saying, like, what the hell did I do? What the hell did I accomplish? Reserve thinking after starting working. Absolutely. I'm resting and thinking of a master plan. Making comics. We all have our master plans. And Yeah, the world is built on the master plans. We wouldn't have a society without a master plan to some extent. Um, but in the world of comics, it gets done little by little. Put in your efforts, your hours. You know, it's funny. I have worked from home in DC and other big companies. Um, and when it comes to me working on retro, there were a lot of other artists pointing out that, hey, he's worked for the majors. Um, he'll get his comic finished really fast, and he'll be professional, and he'll you know do great work. Blah blah blah. But it's like it's easy to work within their system. It's really easy. I mean, if you can depend on a regular weekly paycheck, and that's good money, and it's a world of difference. Me working on retro, because I'm not getting paid page by page. I'm not getting it's there's not a promotional team behind retro. It's just me. It's just freaking me. uh and it's a lot of work. um and sometimes you go down roads, like, it's like you want to promote it, you want to do things that you know get people's eyes on it, and you try random stuff, and not everything succeeds. So in the end, there's a lot of time you waste, and and you're trying to make money along the way. um it's a lot of work. So while it will get easier over time, as I see it, it's like once I have a couple of books um, published, then at least I'll have a catalog of stuff that will bring me in money. Gotta put in work, bro. Inspired by your work ethic. Thanks. And I'm inspired by you. And, I mean, it's like, it's all, we all help each other. By doing our best. So, like, as I see it, I'm at the beginning stage of, and to some extent, that's the hardest to get things rolling. Now I'm doing a lot more than what I would advise for other people. The easiest and smartest thing to do would be do one book, get it done, and get it out there. Um, and to some extent, that's what I'm doing. But my plan is for something a lot bigger than the average creator, or like the success stories. It's like Jeff Smith with Bone, or Mike Mignola with Hellboy, or uh, Terry Moore with Strangers in Paradise. They They start with one creation, get a book done and get it out there, and then work on the next book, and so on and so on and so on. I'm not coming off my work with Marvel or DC, so it's been years since I've been making serious money. And I'm really just working um, on a minimal income. If I have to be 100% honest, I live in a cheap ass apartment in a inexpensive town. Kentucky is really inexpensive as opposed to other places. I mean, that's part of the reason why I left New York was like, I knew if I wasn't making six figures, then this is not the place for me to live. And, I definitely enjoy um, the different lifestyle, but I was fully aware coming here that it would be easier for me as a comic book person to exist, to have a decent living where I'm not making, you know, a big salary that I can, not sweat month to month like I would if I was still living in New York. Heck, if I was still living in New York and just doing the same exact things, I'd be in a freaking shelter because I wouldn't be able to afford even having like a roommate situation, which I live alone currently. And right now I'm just down to two cats, so that's a lot more inexpensive than not. What is it? Months ago, I had six cats in here, which was nuts. But even so, I can be making a lot more money, and I do want to make a lot more money. We all do, but while I'm in this stage of getting things sort of set up, it's good to have you know where I can keep my finances low. Yeah, but this time next year, I'll have a couple of books out. I'll be working on a lot more of my own projects, and hopefully, I can really just do away with a lot of other work. With Cuomo running town, New York is on the fast track to becoming a well gentrified hellhole. Possibly, man. Possibly. I haven't been keeping track of what's happening in New York. I still have friends there, but I don't necessarily keep track of what they're doing. Good morning, Skull Diamond 94. How you doing? So yes, this week ahead looks very, very busy for me. but it should be a fun one. Not only I'll be connecting with Comics with Chris, uh, but I'll be, and I think he does his shows late night. But Ryan Wynn, who currently has his Hamarilla Indiegogo campaign going, if, uh, he's the writer creator of Gods and Gears, published from Alterna Comics. I'll be on his channel twice. He does a ink along thing, something I believe it's new, where he has people inking the same piece. And then I'll be with him on that, and whoever else shows up. But also probably just a solo get together with Ryan to talk about inking. I've been at this for, well, it would be 30 years in September, which is, September's a while away, so 29 years. September is like next year, far into the year. So yeah, I hope when I get my 30th anniversary, it's like I have a bunch of books I could be proud of, retro being one of them. And um, the whole goal um, with my own company is that I'll be able to work on comics where it's the same team, um, issue after issue after issue, and it's not a mini series and then restart and then another team and restart and then a whole different focus of the character and then restart. It's like Marvel and DC have really screwed things up, in my opinion. But the funny thing is, like, the first issue of this is my friend Rich Fisher did the pencils. I'm doing the inks. I got my friend Marshall Lee doing the coloring for the first issue. And then I'm going to take over the book with writing, penciling, inking, and possibly coloring issue 2 going forward. So other than that, it would be, whatever artists I get on my other books. The intention is that it will be pretty consistent. But, so you start out a company with a little bump in the road. It happens. So Skull Diamond is doing good, fresh from the gym and ready to make comics. Awesome, awesome. And Comics with Chris goes, Hammer looks so cool. Yep, yep. Ryan Wynn's a talented guy. Been doing comics for a while. And yeah, he definitely has a interesting heritage. And yeah, I like his approach. He's done some. I'm kind of jealous. He's done some little animations to promote his comic, and he's really really good at those. It's like I would love to do some for retro at some point down the line, but at this point, it's probably more important than actually just draw the character. That's where like you gotta be fully aware of your time and what you're spending your time on. So for me, it's like if I'm not spending time on making my comic, then it should be I'm doing something that makes me money or improves my business. Because otherwise, you're just goofing off in the wrong direction. Yeah, there's too many things in life that trip you up, and I know for me, it's like I'm my worst enemy, as they say. So as soon as you're aware that you're going down a rabbit hole, then you take a moment, say, okay, this is not doing me any good. I need to get some actual work done. Mm-mm-mm. So along the lines of what I was just saying, like issue 2 is going to look pretty different. I'm allowing like Marshall, who is really like he just volunteered to help me out because my initial colorist kind of flaked, and when I did a Kickstarter. I did a 5-day Kickstarter just to initially finance this book. I had a colorist attached to it, and I thought, like I love this kid's work, and I'll have him on the book forever, and actually love his work enough that I wanted to have him do a couple of different books of mine. Um, but it took him months to just do a couple of pages, and I was like, "This is ridiculous. I can't use you." And Marshall was kind enough to jump in and say, "Oh, I'll help you out." And it's like, "Dude, I want to pay you." It's like, "Yeah, you don't have to worry about it." I know you don't really have the budget for it right now. It's like, well, when I do have the money, I will pay you. um, but he has a very distinct idea of how to color it. I mean, I told him I want to kind of color it like a comic from the 80s as opposed to, how comic books are colored now. And I'll stick with that. But he's it's funny. He's coloring the actual page sort of a off white, I guess, eggshell, as if it's a comic that was printed back in the 80s. So the first issue is going to look a little dated already, which is kind of funny. Stitch, if there's bumps in the road, you're headed for good company. Yep. Yes, indeedy. For all the comics I loved, um, back when I was younger. Um, well, even when I first started my career in comics, I started late. I was 28. I already thought like I'm 28, man. Why the hell am I starting a new career? I'm too old. Um, you know, it's like I'm okay at inking. I mean, initially I knew I sucked, um, but I spent the first batch of years, like almost every day, just improving my skill. But I felt too old to be jumping into comics. It's like I had a 9 to 5 job. I was working at various big companies in New York, and thinking that I'm going from something that's pretty reliable. I could always have work and a career and be working for companies that would give me a good salary, to working in comics, working freelance, working on a job that it's not, there's nothing dependable about it. It's like, the the government laughs at people like me. Like, oh, you work in comics, you don't make money. It's harder for people in comics to buy homes. It's, there's lots to it. Um, but it's like, I love comics growing up. I really just initially and still do pick them up because of the art first. I love the characters. I love the writing. I love the storylines. But it's still first and foremost always about the art. And I have definite ideas about how things should look and what comics mean to me and what I want to present to the fans that will pick up my books. And it's like this whole industry is exciting to me, and I want to bring that love out and deliver it to people. So it doesn't matter where I work from home in DC. It's like I got my own path to follow, and you know there's going to be plenty of bumps in the road. And it's like, well, it's like I finished the first issue, and it's close to what I wanted, but it's like you learn with it, which each book you work on, you learn, and you try to improve. A friend of mine, this girl Carrie, she works in healthcare, and she always said, like, there's I forget what it's called, but like pretty much like you try to improve things 1%. Like each day you try to improve things 1%. Like what you've done before, and you know where you want to wind up, and you just try to do 1% better. And if you do that every day, then eventually, you know, you'll be making things close to what you want. Chris says, I'm definitely pick up your first book. Awesome. And that's what I hope. I hope that everybody picks up my first book. I can't wait for people to read this and see what it looks like, all put together and finished. So, um, this is the villain actually of the book, and this is the villain's name is Diamond. I might do something more elaborate than just Diamond, although I'm pretty happy with just Diamond. It's simplistic and straightforward. Um, but growing up, when the first comic store came to my neighborhood, and I'm from Brooklyn. I live on Avenue J, just off Flatbush Avenue. Um, and the first comic store that appeared near us was a comic store called Diamond Comics. So it's a little nod to my old friends. That was their last name, Diamond. So I figured that was a fitting homage. So yeah, well, Rich penciled his hair pretty standard. Um, I've done his hair more elaborate, so I don't want to go too deep into inking it right here because I want to make sure I have reference in front of me, and while I could pull it up on the computer, to read the chat and then look at images is too distracting. So, I'm just throwing down lines at this point. I'll pull everything together. It's when I'm not streaming. It's easy to concentrate when I'm not, as long as I'm making progress on a page, which is why I'm not like working on one panel. I kind of jump around. Working for comics is like working for the year when it comes to the value and effort. Generally unseen, overworking, low paying, thankless. What those two fields share is patience and will to help. Absolutely. That's a good way of putting it. But what happens behind closed doors stays in there. Yeah, so I guess the point to my story that I was trying to make was like back in the day, I would follow many books, and we would mostly be clueless. Like we, the fans, would be mostly clueless as to really the work that went into the books and the challenges of of the people that worked on the books were facing. Like we had no clue, like how difficult it was working for the big companies and trying to produce something, like the creators maybe trying to do something with real heart in it. And it I know for myself, like working from home in DC is it's really fulfilling, to a point, but it's really awesome to have that huge company behind you, knowing that they're going to promote it, or hell, they don't even have to promote it because they're such a big company. And that you'll be selling X amount of copies, and no worries in that department. And when you go to conventions, is already that fan base there. But it's a machine, and you just have to work on it. And it's only the short breaths in between that are like the creative input. I know when I went up to the offices, dropping off pages or picking up pages, whatever, um, the editor would be like, Peter David's writing, like, he's writing Aquaman, he's writing like 3 other books, and he's writing 2 novels, and he's working on some TV show at the same time. And it's like, you know, he's only got so much time. And we knew, the people working on it knew more behind the scenes. Like, we knew like what was going, or what was supposed to be going into the story. Like, what you read on the final pages was only a glimpse of it. And, so the final result um, was only a portion. And, he only had his time working on the book, and we never got to like finish storylines, or delve into storylines that he created along the way, that I guess there was no fan interest. So we skipped over stuff along the way. And you don't know that. Like, you read the comic and it's like, it seems okay, things are moving forward, we're getting to know about this character, that character. There was a whole universe of characters in Aquaman. And we barely scratched the surface. But he, like, the editor would ask my opinion about, so what do you think? What do you think of the book? What do you think we should do? I'd give him my 2 cents, of course. I've done that when working on Aquaman. I've done that. Any book I've worked on, it was a independent comic. If they asked me, or sometimes even if they didn't ask me, I'll give my 2 cents. And that's something, it's like, I think I was paid for that a couple of times, but mostly it was like, here's some free advice of what you what you should do with your book. Because I think it's good. It could always be better. It's like, and it's that experience that sort of has, gravitated me towards this direction of, I should just be doing my own books, because I have a million ideas of what I want to do, and nobody else is going to do it for me. So that's how I got here, I guess. I was working on everybody else's books. I mean, I always sort of, it's like the books I loved just as a fan. It's like I always had my ideas of, well, it's like, I thought, like, say, Power Man and Iron Fist. Oh, this is an excellent book, and everybody should be picking this up. And it was popular for a time. And John Byrne worked on it. I forget who wrote it, but it's like, I don't think the sales were as good as they could be. It's almost like Marvel and DC when it comes to sales numbers. They're focused on the top 3 books, even though they try to put out 90 or 200 books a month or whatever. They get stupid. They're the suits at the companies always think, we need to flood the market. That's how we'll have a bigger share. It's not about the quality of the books per se, but it's about, them flooding the market and getting the most sales, and it's kind of backward momentum stuff. If you put out quality books, then you won't need to, put out twice as many books or three times as many books. You'll be making the same numbers or better numbers because the books are so good and hot. But suits don't always think that way. They definitely serve their purpose, but but they should not be in control of the car that drives the company. Definitely not. And I've seen a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and I remember I was actually working in the office, which I've done a couple of times up at Marvel, which is, inkers don't work in the bullpen. But when I was working there, they had 8 or 10 or a dozen X-Men books at the time. And they, the movies were coming out, X-Men movies, first or second movie, whatever it was at the time. And so X-Men were hot, and all the books were selling, some better than others, of course. A lot of them were good, not all of them. Some of them were just trash. And yeah, I was up there because things were due the next day. They were just slamming out the books, and there'd be sometimes multiple pencilers on the book, multiple inkers, multiple colorists, yada yada yada, just to get them out on time. They had monthly books, they had bi-weekly books. I don't know. It was crazy times, but and it's yeah, I'm sure it's still like that. Um, but I would like hear the editors talking. The bullpen was surrounded by all the editor offices, and the topic of conversation were the X-Men movies. That was heavily influencing what they were doing in the comics, unfortunately, to a degree, in not such a good way. And the X-Men movies were heavily influenced by the Matrix, and their thought was, Matrix is highly popular, therefore, when they delivered the X-Men movies, that's why they all wore black outfits, which was a mistake, if you ask me. Maybe it worked in their favor, whatever. But the comics were colorful costumes and characters, and the movies, they made them all similar. And they, to me, it's like they never really, the comics didn't benefit from the movies, and that's still in a lot of ways the case. And it's great. It's great that properties get picked up to be made into movies. I'm all for that. You know, if something comes of retro one day, to be made into an animated cartoon or a movie. You know, I would freaking love for it to be made into a CGI movie like The Incredibles or something. Um, but for it to also benefit the comic directly, I'll go out of my way to sort of promote both however I could. If that meant me going to watch the movie at different theaters and bring a couple of boxes of copies myself and say, "Hey, what? You just watched the movie and you love it. Well, here's the comic. Buy a copy, you bastards." But I mean, we as independent creators and artists and whatnot can learn from everything that has gone before. And I know firsthand that it's easy to see what people are doing and say, oh, they did it wrong. Well, it's easy to say things are wrong. It's a lot harder to do it yourself and get it right. So, once you open your mouth and say, oh, I'm going to create this, I'm going to do my own comic, I'm going to do retro, you know, well, I'm doing retro, and it's coming along, but it's not done yet, and it's not gonna change the industry. Um, I just want a successful book, and my idea of success won't be anywhere near like an issue of X-Men. It doesn't have to be. If I sell 1,000 copies, I'll be happy. If I sell 3,000 copies, that's probably competitive in the industry right now. Um, so you know, uh, I have to shoot for like 4 or 5,000 as sort of my goal, because I do want to make a difference, and it's to have an impact. I'll have to get there. In due time. In due time. So I guess that was my rant. I think I scared away some people. But it's all good. It's all good. It's all about making comics. There's nothing controversial to what I think or say, I guess. Yeah, and maybe maybe my observations are pretty obvious. Yeah, I do comics because I, I love I love the whole process of it. You know, there's more. It's always fun to be finished with a project. You know, but um, there's more joy during than uh, really when you see it on the shelf. You know, there's joy to that, but um, there's also a feeling of, huh, it's done. Okay, you know, it's like you're already working on the next issue or the 2 issues down the line or whatever, and it's like maybe you remember fully working on that issue, or more than likely you're already thinking of, okay, the book I'm working on has a whole different set of characters, that we introduced in the storyline. With the issue on the shelf is already done, and you got your mind on a lot of other things of where you're taking things in the book, and it's all that jazz, yo. Yeah, I was watching somebody, well, yesterday, where they were talking about uh, like what is it? Oh, Watchmen. It's like Watchmen is a great, outstanding book, but they hated how lots of people are trying to copy Watchmen. And it's like, well, I'm not here to control what people like. I just hope that there's enough people that like what I do. You can't control trends, you know. It's like, imagine, like, for those that do know of the comic Watchmen and Dark Knight, those are definitely like super popular books because, yes, the stories were new and exciting and market changing. Uh, but imagine if it wasn't those two books. Imagine if it was like two other books that came out at the same time that became super popular, and uh, like those two did. And trends would be a lot different. Like, it's whatever. Um, I know a lot of what I want to do story wise, art wise, has been done a billion times in comics. It's there's nothing new really when it comes down to it that I'm seeking to do. Um, you know, at the end of the day, I just want to make fun comics with fun characters and fun stories. So, will I do a book as popular as Watchmen or Dark Knight? Probably not, you know, But will it be as important to me as those books were? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I like to see Jubilee and Wolverine in their comics get up. Hey, it came from the radio. Hey, Mark. Remember, today's comic fan doesn't read comics. That's bullshit. I say bullshit to that. Stitch, local movie theater. Here's got a glass case loaded with comics and memorabilia of series whenever they get a screen adaptation. Wow. Um, if you don't mind saying, where's that? That's awesome. Associated with a multi-chain LCS. That's awesome. Are you in Canada or something? Hi, Palmiotti. Hi, Sketchy Arch. Welcome, welcome. Cup of Cups Comics. Yeah, we're all about the comics here. I'm working on my comic retro, which it would be awesome to get the first issue out this year. We'll see. We'll see. I'm trying to keep on top of it. Making progress during my streams. But anybody who follows my channel is pretty much up to date on what's happening with retro. I'm not giving a blow by blow necessarily. I'm still a ways away. I'm randomly inking pages. So when it gets close to me completing inks, I'll definitely be saying that all the time. But I'm still a ways away. Really? If they did, comics would be making millions. Let's just say it's an argument I don't want to get into, but what you said before was comic comic fans don't read comics. Of course, comic fans read comics. I mean, it's technically inaccurate. Anyway, Stitch says it. Yeah, I don't know how much of a success that Gamer's. Last time I saw the case was during the Joker 2019 screenings, and it was stacked with Joker related content. Cool. There's definitely not as many comics sold today as there were back in the 90s, but there were not as many comics sold before the 90s. That was a unusual trend that will happen again, but it was a moment in time where collectors really increased 10x because they all of a sudden realized that you could make money selling comics. But when everybody bought 15 copies of a book, realized that 2 years later that their comic was worthless, then that's why sort of everything collapsed afterwards. But there are enough fans out there. and it's a way different. It's a vastly different world than it was back then as well, technology wise, and people's interests are definitely focused in a much different manner than 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 it was. Music has been greatly affected. You know, regular television is greatly affected. There's millions of cable stations now, and there's all these new streaming services. Um, it's so much being created. Um, there's not a a huge audience for many things anymore. You know, it's like, okay, so Mandalorian is super popular, and I'm sure most people are somewhat into it. So, but if it was 20, 40 years ago, I'm sure you can like double or triple the amount of viewers it would have had back when. But, I don't know. I'm talking out of my ass. Who's to say? Who's to say? It's like I know I can with my comic I can get enough of an audience to be successful. You know, I don't have to have Marvel DC numbers for me to, you know, not only deliver my comic but to successfully continue it for 10, 20, 100 issues. Is all I'm saying. It's like I know a lot of independent creators out there want to reach a bigger audience. Well, that doesn't mean you have to change the world to do that. Home Shopping Network, make millions off of comics, flip them like houses. Absolutely, that's all we need to do. It's like 2 a.m. Be selling them online to housewives. You love my comic. Not only is it good to read, but it cleans your sink too. And yeah, I mean, it's like the world is a different dynamic. It's like I say housewives, like there is a thing like that anymore. It's like women are working just as much as men nowadays, and therefore like the family structure is different. When I was growing up, my father worked 6 days a week, and he was around a little bit in the mornings, mostly in the evenings. But I spent more time with my mom than heck, even my brothers. Um, and I considered my family big. It was me and three older brothers and mom and dad, and but there's all sorts of different combination families now, and society is much different, and so it's like it's not as easy and straightforward to garner a specific audience, but that's okay. It's like we have our ways. And Stitch says, in my studies and time at uni, I have some thoughts how to market online, but I think my proposals will be hard to adapt to indie creators. Um, what would they be good for? Would they be good for like the bigger companies? I personally think that there's so many independent comic creators, and I know there's been a lot of people talk about unionizing or like organizing, um and I know that's always like super difficult to do with other creators, like sort of band together and do anything, because we're all living our own lives and dealing with our own struggles, and we're not big companies, therefore like everything's you know difficult to get together and make stuff happen. But I I I do believe in somehow, and I'm not sure what shape it would take, but somehow getting together on it to you know make things easier for us individuals along the way. Whether that means like getting together so that each of us has a bigger audience because we each bring our own small audience, and together we will have a bigger audience, or I don't know. There's so many different ways. I know, like, I'm just trying to build my audience, and when I get some books out, and it's like I'll start really thinking about the bigger picture. It's like I'm always willing to help other creators, and by doing that, and I see tons of creators doing the same. We each sort of slowly grow. Like their audience sees my audience, and so on and so on. So everything helps. I think it could work for both indies and companies, but it's those ideas you want to treat like trade secrets. But I will have to test them myself to figure and perfect it. Yeah, I mean, I realized early on that if I want to promote retro, I really have to promote it above and beyond just than just with the comic people. It's like, yes, I want anybody who's a fan of comics to pick up my book, but if I can advertise outside of comics to other people with other interests, people who like to read, people who like art, then maybe I can convince them to pick up my book. And if I could do that, then that may be even more worthwhile, because people who love comics will eventually see that I have a comic hat. But people outside of comics that start picking out my book, that could be a more powerful audience. So yeah, I mean that's food for thought, as they say. Let's see. So I've been going over an hour and a half, and yeah, I got some more done on my page. This is page 7. Like I said, I'm flipping around. But Retro, who is stronger than the average person, faster than the average person, heals faster as well. Master of parkour, will be heading to you eventually. You can support him and me and my studio by becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/Peter Palmiotti. There's a tip jar down below, which is a PayPal link. You can go and throw me a couple bucks, no strings attached, or $1,000 if you want to finance my first issue. If you haven't already, please give this video a like. The more people that do, the more that it may be possibly seen across YouTube, and the more people that will maybe check it out. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so that you can keep track of my latest streams as they happen. And let's see. Did I miss any? Advertise to other people with other interests is primarily the area I want to find out how I can appeal to, and I have a thought of a few ways. Exactly. And thanks for hanging and showing off the Inksling. Well, thank you, everybody who showed up in the chat. You make the streams more interesting, because if it's just me chatting amongst myself, I can get boring, I guess. But yeah, thank you, everybody, for coming and hang out with me and making work fun. This has been a gas. And I'm gonna try this again to stream more often. I have a lot of other work to accomplish, but and I'll have guests too and whatnot. But yeah, it's the eternal struggle of the independent comic creator. I'll see you again shortly. Take care, everybody, and have a great